Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today, I am talking to Kevn Kinney. You know, sometimes you want to hang out with friends, and sometimes you want to be by yourself. Kinney, the frontman and founder of Southern rock mainstays Drivin N Cryin, manages to do both on his latest album. Think about it, the singer-songwriter and guitarist's 19th release is his first solo outing in more than a decade. And fittingly enough, it's an introspective, personal affair laced with songs about solitude and loneliness. But he didn't do it totally alone. On these 11 songs, he's joined by a guest list of longtime friends, including producer David Barbe, R.E.M's Peter Buck and Bill Berry, and members of Drive-By Truckers, Drivin N Cryin, and more. He's also joined in spirit by late friends like Colonel Bruce Hampton and drummer-producer Anton Fier, who both inspired and influenced some of these songs. A couple of days before Think About It dropped, the talkative Kinney zoomed in from his Atlanta home to discuss Going It Alone, the K-Tel rock album in his future, why there's no I in Kevn in more ways than one, and lots more. Enjoy. Kevn Kinney, thanks for taking the time to talk to me today.
Yeah, man, what's the buzz?
Well, you know, I don't know. It's a pleasure to have you here. You are, to my way of thinking, the man with the most misspelled first name in rock and roll. So that is an honor in and of itself.
That's what I was going for. Fame through spelling.
That's right. That's right. Is that were you born without the I in your first name, or is that something you just did for rock and roll?
No, when I was a punk rocker, the Milwaukee Gas Company just sent me bills. It said Kevn, so I just left it.
All right, fair enough, fair enough.
But my brother's best friend's name was Kevn Kinney, so I had an identity crisis early in life, and then I just kind of kept it because it's kind of like Gaelic spelling. So for my grandmother, I kind of kept it, But yeah, it's just different. I thought I was gonna be more famous than I am. I thought I was gonna be like Elvis, where I could have like a Kevn behind me, big letters, but didn't happen.
Well, there's still time. There's still time.
No, okay. Maybe at a Broadway play.
There you go. Yes, I think that's the way. Drivin N Cryin on Broadway. I think it's a thing, man. If Springsteen can do it, you can do it. So
yeah,
I
thought that was a good idea.
Oh, for sure. So you've got, if my math and the internet are right, neither of which are very trustworthy. This is your 19th album that you are about to put out. That's quite a legacy.
It's a lot of sitting around. Yeah. I guess so. Yeah. Is it 19 albums for Drivin N Cryin and Kevn Kinney? I think so.
I believe with this one, Think About It. This will be your 10th solo album, and there are 9 Drivin N Cryin studio albums, and then obviously live albums and stuff. But
right, best of things. Well, it's just, it's important to me to just document, I'm so glad I did it because, there was a point in the 80s when it was like when you got cut out, like our first island record got cut out, right before Fly Me Courageous. It was called Whisper Tames a Lion, and it was actually not available. And before the internet, it was just gone, like you just had to tell people, tell people, they have a rare copy of, I don't know, I use the Ramones as an example. Well, Patti Smith had some. I think Patti Smith had 1 or 2 cut out. Sure. Maybe before. I'm not sure if she did or not, but it got
just so much stuff vanished into the ether.
There was a lot of stuff that vanished, and then when iTunes came, as much as a lot of people were not liking it, or even Spotify or whatever, at least it's available, and it's like stuck out there now in this universe of digital music. So at least it's preserved. I feel like that's a good thing for me, because it's you're not going to find me in the record stores, and if you do, I'll be like, every time I feel bad, like I walked into Best Buy and couldn't find a Drivin N Cryin record, I go try to find the replacements. I'm like, oh well, I can't find them either. So there you go.
I was going to say, where are you going to find a record store these days anyway?
Right.
Yeah.
The ones that are still around, I'm loving them. There's one in every city. but you have to go support them. But you know, first of all, you gotta have a good record player. You know, a lot of people buying vinyl just to have it, like Adele fans and Taylor Swift fans are buying millions of albums and never listening to them. And if they do listen to them, they're not listening to them on the right. Buy a freaking CD player, listen to it online, whatever, you know. So, you know, it's not a vanity thing. I mean, the albums that I pressed are really good quality. There's only 150 of them to start because I didn't even know, but we're reordering some to be ready for February actually. So, but there's CDs and downloads and things like that. But yeah, I really thought that I was going to be like between that and the rest of my records. McDougal Blues was not available for a long time, and you know, Down Outlaw was barely available at all, period. And Something Like Revive. I mean, almost all my records, if they were counting on them to only be available through physical copies, I would be totally, people would not be able to hear my music ever. So it's really great for me, you know. I mean, I know a lot of people bitch like, I used to sell 1 million copies and I got $1 million, and now I got, you know, like, I don't know, man. I'm just happy somebody from Denmark heard me. I got an email from some guy from Denmark, and like, this guy from Denmark heard about us. Hey,
shout out to Denmark.
I'm still excited that somebody even hears about us.
Well, great.
I think that's healthy for putting out. It's healthy for creating art because you're making music for yourself. Like I always used to say, like painters paint, and galleries sell. And you know, Warhol crossed that line when he was like, I'm gonna sell a lot. You know, I'm gonna make this popular art, which is a whole, he not invented, but you know, really took advantage of the pop art aspect of things. And you know, that's kind of where I'm coming from. Just like, you know, just I'm gonna keep creating, and it'll be out there. And my target audience is like gonna be born in the next 3 years, and they're gonna find me in 26 years, and there'll be a 23-year-old in college in 2070, and he's gonna be like, check this Kevn Kinney guy out. So maybe I'll be on there. Maybe I'll be on there. Maybe Think About It will be the theme song to their favorite Nickelodeon show.
Well, yeah, we'll pencil that in for the 2050 reunion tour.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Think About It. This is your, like I said, your 10th solo album, but it's your first one in more than a decade. Did you intend to have a break that long, and what made this sort of the right time to make another solo album?
Well, I did. I wanted to dedicate. Well, after I'd made Good Country Mile with Anton Fier with the Golden Palominos, that was a long process. That was a 2 or 3 year process of recording and getting that out and trying to find someone to help put out. Like I'm not on a record label. Like I am independent as independent comes. Like I've been paying for and producing and promoting and doing all this by myself. You know, I mean, we've been doing this independently since '94, since Wrapped in Sky was the last time a record company paid for us to make a record. That was Wrapped in Sky with Geffen Records, and we've been making them ever since, just on our own. You know, I spent a lot of time with Anton. You know, it was a really heavy scene. He was very specific, and he's a genius, but a taskmaster. And it was a very difficult record to make in a lot of ways, but he did a great job on it. So I just kind of gave myself a break to go back. I really wanted to, so I brought Anton in to make this Drivin N Cryin like rock opera we had to call Whatever Happened to the Great American Bubble Factory. So I brought him to Atlanta to help him, because as much as he's difficult, he is a genius, and he just knows your music better than you do because he's really great at it. So I just wanted to make some Drivin N Cryin stuff for a while I was still young, you know, and so I made that one, and then I made all the EPs with Sadler. So I just really wanted to do Drivin N Cryin for a while. I wanted to we had a really great guitar player, Sadler Vaden. Then we had Aaron Lee Tash, and so I wanted to make a record with Aaron Lee. So Aaron produced the next one, and so now I'm kind of like done all the Drivin N Cryin I could do. I did Bubble Factory, 5 EPs, or 4 or 5, one, and then and so now I'm like ready to go back, and I really wanted to start this thing, so I started it like 2 months before March. The country shut down, so it's not really a pandemic record, or but it wound up being had to be made in that way. I'd already done 2 weeks, 3 weeks work on it, and then when the pandemic hit, we found a way to get musicians like Lauer, Joe Metz, did his parts in Nashville, like fly. You can fly stuff in now. Like I don't know how to do it, but it's really kind of cool how people do it. And this we had Peter Buck to do his parts all in 2 days, right when it started. So that was good. And then we added strings later, and then so side one is all the way it was. The whole record was going to be like side one, but then the pandemic came, and so side two, I was going to bring the guys back in, the jazz guys, Kevin and Darren, right. But then there's no way I could get them back in the studio. So Brad Morgan from the Truckers, they have a rehearsal space in the same space as I was recording. So I brought Brad in to play drums. And then I had David Barbe had been working with Bill Berry, and Bill Berry has a new band called the Dead Ends, I believe. It's with Mike Manti on a 5/8. Wow. He actually has an album coming out. It's on New West, and they're going to actually do some shows. They're opening for us in Atlanta in February, and they call it the Bad Ends. And so Bill came and played on one song, and then helped me arrange another one called Half Mast. He helped me arrange that one. So that was, it was piecemeal, a lot of driving back and forth to Athens and stuff. But
the thing is, though, it kind of is almost a full circle in the sense of, I mean, I know you've worked with Buck a lot over the years, obviously, but he was on McDougal Blues, and Barbie was on McDougal Blues. It's kind of a nice, coming back to that. Was that even something that you had thought of, or was that just the way it worked out?
Athens is my comfort zone. I like Athens. It's the place I always wanted to live. And then when I did live there, I was never really kind of accepted. So it was always kind of an outsider. It's really weird. They have a really delicate ecosystem there of people who are townies and people who aren't townies. So I was always a little bit like offended that I was never really a townie, but
I kind of get the sense you like being an outsider, though.
I do. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do. Like Lauer said, like when Lauer listened to the record a couple of days ago, he goes, "It sounds like it's from Athens." So yeah, there's a different Athens sound, I think. The Truckers. And
well, I think anything Peter Buck plays on sounds like it comes from Athens. Yeah. He's kind of the whole theme kind of wrapped up in one Rickenbacker arpeggio,
Yeah, and he played that on this record. He played that his original 12-string and the original Rickenbacker. He played some of that on there. Played Ebo. He played. So yeah, I mean, it was just it wasn't as conscious as like I want to make a remake. Now I have done a record with Scott McCoy and Peter called McDougal Blues Revisited, where I add verses to older songs, and that might come out some year, but I don't know when.
Oh, you got to get that out for sure.
Yeah, I made a record with David Barbe called the Sunday Angel Revival with my band. I had with Gib Droll, who plays with Bruce Hornsby now, and Brian Howard, who plays at Cracker, and Dave Johnson, who's Drivin N Cryin's drummer.
I mean, at this point, do you have to give these guys any kind of instruction, or do they just sit down and listen to it and you let them go and it's right?
Yeah, I rarely give instruction. I really just that's what I tell guitar players that join Drivin N Cryin. It's like, I don't want you to play the part on the record. I want you to pretend that you are in the band, and what would you add to this if you had never heard this before? And sometimes just the way that I write, is not, it's very an amalgamation of everybody from Love to the Bill Brummels to the I mean, it's not that rare. I'm not doing like rare Indian, Turkish, I'm doing American music. So basically the melody for, the melodies are going to kind of be familiar. But I always encourage Sadler and Warner Hodges and just to be you. People are coming to see Robert Gordon with Link Ray. They don't want Link Ray playing Chris Betting's part. They want Link Ray to play Link Ray's part, right. And Chris Betting to play Chris Betting's part. And so I encourage people to, if you're going to go see. I mean, that's what I love about the jazz world is like you can have, when you see Ron Carter is playing with, it's a different thing. Ron Carter is going to be Ron Carter or whatever, Stanley Carter be Stanley Clark or, so like I like to do that same thing for rock and roll. That's why I put everyone's name on the cover too, because I really like those jazz records where it's listing the musicians are part of the thing, and with in this day and age when you have the iTunes, you don't get the back covers, you don't know really, there's no credits. You have to I have to go to Wikipedia to find out who played on this record, who played on that song or whatever. So I was like, I'm gonna start putting my who produced it. I think I might have done that. I don't know if I did that on the Live to Love Beautiful produced by I wanted to. I don't think it made it, but I always liked it when you could get those records and like a Ronnie Lane record, and there was like you'd say Pete Townsend, and it's like all the people on it. It's like, oh, this got to be good,
Exactly. That's just a lovely thing to do. I guess that's why there's no I in Kevin. Huh?
That's right. I'm a team player.
So I know that at least one of these songs is quite old, but were the majority of them kind of written in a block specifically for this project, or are these things that you've kind of accumulated one by one over the years?
Yeah, well, it's been building for the last 10 years. Think about it. The actual song "Think About It" has been around at least 5 years or so. The poem has been around about 5 years. In the City is kind of a newer song, the one with the flute on it. That's just it's just one of these things where when I live in New York, I wrote about Atlanta a lot clearer. But then when I got out of New York, I moved back to Atlanta, I could write about New York a lot clearer because I could see it as a little, the edges aren't as sharp, and I don't feel like I need to be as specific as I could see the overall what is about New York. And there's 1,000 little neighborhoods, 1,000 little towns. There's just like I lived in Greenpoint, and there's just like there's old women in Greenpoint have never left Greenpoint. Like I don't even know if they've ever been to Manhattan except maybe to do maybe a legal thing or I don't know, but they live in their little communities in New York. That's what I loved about New York is it's dozens of small towns. The Lower East Side, there's people who just really, when they say I don't go above 14th Street, there's literally people who just don't want to go above 14th Street. It's a really cool. And people who live on the Upper West Side or Upper East Side, they've probably never been to Bleecker Street. And I kind of liked that about it. And then this intertwining vein of transportation running underneath and over everywhere. And there's like there's a song on there that I wrote at Milwaukee many years ago called this is on my first demo tape called "Close the Door," and that was on my very first demo tape in 1984 or 1983. It was actually
How old were you when you wrote that?
When I wrote that one, well, I was probably 20.
Wow. I mean, that's a pretty advanced, mature, you know what I mean? It's not like some piece of teenage drivel.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But it really is. It was like an observation of how you just there's a million around, but you're still all alone, and I know people like that they not only live in Manhattan, the Lower East Side, but they just don't want to ever get out. And they just they don't have, it's hard to start a relationship. It's hard to be young in New York. New York is made for young people, and And when I was young, it was great. And then if you're not rich, right? If you're not rich and young, or even if you're not rich, if you're willing to party and be part of everything and kind of put yourself out there, just be the scene queen and just be at everything. And if you can just get on every guest list and you're just really energetic, I mean, you can do that, but then eventually you just run out of gas, and
The story of your life, right?
yeah, I mean, I did that when I was in New York. Me and my ex-wife Shani, we had our own night every Monday night. We played every Monday night. Me and Anton and Catherine Popper, and we had a little jazz. We had Tony Shear from Sex Mob and Bill Frisell, and it was just like we had this. It was free to get in. It was I paid every musician $30, $40. It's packed. And but it's just kind of like nobody cares who the Heartbreakers are except the people who actually played with the Heartbreakers.
And they're all dead.
Anybody to give a shit. Yeah. So there's some of these songs are kind of like that. In the City is like that, about Anton. It's a little bit about like Anton living on beneath the stairs, and and just like, it's a secret. Nobody knows except everyone.
Right. Yeah, I mean, his ghost is over a couple of these songs, and Bruce Hampton's ghost is kind of in some of the other songs on this one, right?
Yeah. Colonel Bruce was one of my best friends, and we never really played together, and we weren't really part of each other's scenes, but we really appreciated each other. He would always come to my solo shows, and I would always go see him play and just enjoy it. I knew I didn't have to get up and jam because I couldn't keep up with the caliber of people he has, and I just really enjoyed what he did. But we had a nice, we would go have dinner at least once every 2 weeks, and it was just fun to talk about clubs that we should play. How much did you get paid for that? Just bitching about how hard it is to keep the financial thing of keeping a band on the road, and dealing with people's personalities. We talked as band leaders.
How did he kind of impact what you were doing with this album?
What's that?
How did he kind of impact what you were doing with the music here?
Well, I used his band for the first half. Those two guys that play with him are his guys.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I got those guys, and then we wrote a song together. Like, we wrote a song called Shapeshifter Grifter on there. Is that what it's called on a record? I think it is.
No, it's not.
What's it called?
I don't know.
I don't know.
There's Catching Up to Myself. There's Wishes. There's The Innocent. There's Piano Jam, Half Mast.
Piano Jam. Okay, so Piano Jam.
Okay.
That's actually called Shapeshifter Grifter.
All
and
right.
that was like we came back from lunch, and I was just Kevin, can you put a little bass like you, and I want to do a Colonel Bruce kind of vibe thing. And so they just kind of came with a do do do, and then I came up with the piano playing do 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 do. And so and then I just recited a poem that I'd written about the Colonel over the top of it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, so many musicians say that I want to go out, I want to die on stage.
Yeah.
And he's one of somebody who actually did, that is crazy.
Yeah, that fucker. Nobody can top him.
I was going to say, yeah, you can't top that.
How do you top that? Like, really? He's on stage surrounded by the greatest guitar player, like Warren Haynes and Jimmy Harry, like he's got the best guitar player in the world standing over him. And I was on stage for that, me and I was next to Dave Schools, and yeah, crazy. But to be honest, it was so beautiful. Like, for me, it was like, I remember the Fox emptied out and the paramedics were there, and you could see like the shadows of the paramedic lights, and it's shining the paramedics of his body, and then the paramedics working on him. It's like this big shadow on the wall where all the ropes are, where you pull the curtains up and down. It's shining on this wall, and you kind of see his tummy, and you kind of see these guys pounding on him, and there's people like, Colonel, come back, and I'm just I always remember like just saying to myself, "Go, baby, go."
Wow.
Like just
It's a hell
go.
of a memory.
Yeah, it was a great memory. And then in the backdrop, and then a little left, you look a little left, and there's the Fox Theater, all empty and beautiful. You know, the Masonic kind of thing. It was, yeah. I was really hoping he was just gonna like. I was like, please don't bring him back. He's been, you know, like, oh, he's been gone a while. You know.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. You know, I find it interesting that you say a lot of these albums, you know, span a lot of years because, or the songs, I should say, span a lot of years because they're all very much. I mean, they all fit together, as you, I think, called it. It's a Jim Jarmusch black and white soundtrack to
Yeah.
loneliness and being alone. Is that just a topic that you know you found yourself coming back to over and over and over again for some specific reason, or you know what's behind all that?
Well, I mean, just 36 years of trying to do this job. Like I've been going between worlds, the rock and roll world and the folk world. And, you know, like I'm doing it this weekend. I'm flying to Newport, Rhode Island by myself. I'm going to rent a car, drive to Newport. I'm going to do a little show. I'm going to go back. And then I'm, you know, flying in. And then I'm meeting, you know, Lenny K at the airport. And I'm going to drive him to Athens. And we're going to do this Chronic Town thing we're doing this week. And,
Right.
but there's, yeah, I mean, I'm going to be by myself for a good part of the,
But is that the way you want it, or is that just the financial necessity of it, or what?
it's the financial necessity of it, you know,
Okay.
of it all. So yeah. Hey,
But do you?
everything all right?
Yeah, it started raining. Gertie wants to come up here.
Oh, okay. Gertie can come up. Come up, Gertie.
But do you have you come to sort of enjoy and appreciate the time alone and the solitude, or is it just kind of a pain in the ass?
I mean, I've learned to embrace it, and knowing that probably don't have that many more years of it.
Okay.
It's okay, you know, podcasts and things help. But you know, I like to be alone. I definitely, you know, embrace it. Gives me time to think, which is like the think about it thing, you know, and being alone. Like my mother loves to be alone, so like being alone to her is not a dirty word. That's like a good word. She's like, you know, if you say to somebody, you know, you're gonna be gone, you're gonna have 3 days, you're gonna be all by yourself. Some people go, oh man, I'm sorry, and some people go, fuck yeah.
Well, exactly.
You know, it's alone. It's a record for listening alone. It really the synthesis for this record was a little like kind of podcast I was going to do with my friend Eric, who made a movie about Eric Von Hessler, and we kind of started doing this thing at my old apartment, and it was like songs for a late night morning or something like that. There's just versions of songs that were like really quiet. Like when you live in an apartment in New York, you want to play some of your new song, you know, you're like, this world with this kind and mild embrace. You know, you can't be like, this world with this kind and mild, you know, because it's like 3 a.m. You're like, Jesus. So it's kind of a record that's made. That was the synthesis for this record. Was like, I don't want to have to go to the Kevn Kinney go-to voice tone of my voice, which I kind of had to come up with to hear myself sing in the 70s. You know, like we started in like 78 when I was a roadie. I got the monitors were not that good even up until I bought my own monitors finally. But you kind of had to come up with a way to sing so you could hear yourself, and you know, and so I came with that kind of. I embraced the whatever voice it is that I've been using for the last few years, but a lot of my real voice is on this record, like you know, a lot of my just regular talking, like.
Right. The thing that I find fascinating about this one, and then one of the things I really like about it is that even though it's so stylistically varied, I mean, you've got the jazz stuff and you've got stuff that is, you know, folkier and rockier. It all fits together as an album, which is it's almost hard to understand because by all rights it kind of should be disjointed, you know, but it's not. It really hangs together. I don't know how you did that, to be honest with you.
Well, I like to be produced, and like a producer in the music world, in the movie world would be called a director.
Yeah.
In the music world, it's called a producer, but it's really a director. And like David Barbe's a great director. And we kind of wanted to say, well, what, when you start something like this, you want to have a rule book, maybe like just like, okay, let's try to keep it sparse. I don't want to oversing. I want to keep it quiet. I want to sing on this mic and keep it kind of quiet. There's no background vocals. I don't want any background vocals. I want to keep very stark and very private, very personal. And then I want to limit the number of arrangements, like the as it runs as a movie, the last part of it is like the stop, look, listen. It starts with think about it, which is very quiet, and then it ends with stop, look, listen, think about it, which is kind of like the song like Everyone's Okay at the end of the movie. It's like it's almost like over the credits, so yeah, it was, we kind of built it, and I wanted to separate the first part with those musicians. I didn't want to intertwine them, so I wanted to build as a sequencing is really important to, if people are going to listen to the whole record. Nowadays a lot of people just listen to one song, but if you're going to do the journey of the record, it takes a little bit of thought, but it definitely was directed, had some good direction to it. And I love being direct. I love someone to produce me, I love being produced. I love that,
Is there a kind of a, if you could name anybody who you would want to produce you, who has or even hasn't, more specifically, who would it be? Who would you love to work with?
That's a good question. I mean, I'd love to know what it's like to work with, like, I don't know. I think like that, somewhere in that U2 vibe, like the art, like the
Like Dan Lanois, you mean?
Daniel Lanois, Brian I'd love to see what would happen in something like that. That's another one like that. Who produced the Black Crowes Lion record?
Oh,
It was a famous producer. He's a famous arranger, producer.
let me look it up here while we're talking.
Yeah.
What about somebody like a Phil Spector type?
No, if I could, what I would love somebody to do.
Oh,
like
Don Was is who you're thinking
Oh,
of.
Don Was, yeah. I'd like to work with Don Was.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always say things like that, and then I'd probably get in and be like, oh, he doesn't, but I'd like to see what he would think, what would work with that,
Yeah, well, I mean, he's done everybody. I mean, he's playing with Bob Weir's band now.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
he's playing with Bob Weir?
Yeah, that they just put out
wow.
a live album and they're touring and stuff. Yeah, he's actually in the band, which I mean, I know he's been running Blue Note for quite a while now, so
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised to see him back on
This
stage.
would have been a good record for Don Was to chime in on, but I think we did a pretty good job. Yeah, I mean, something like that, to be produced by somebody like that, would be kind of cool. It's it's like, Robert Fripp produced that first Daryl Hall record, which is actually a really great record. It's so
Sacred
weird.
Songs. Yeah, brilliant.
You would be like, what a weird, you would not expect Robert Fripp to be working with Daryl Hall, but it works. It's a great album.
Yeah, I mean, he had Hall as a guest on his album, and this was kind of a returning, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Are you more of a Fripp, like an Eno, that era, or are you a big King Crimson fan?
I appreciate that, but like working with Anton Fier, I'm not. That's a level that I'm not prepared to enter. I'm a Irish heartfelt singer songwriter, talking about sharing common things. I'm not really, I don't spend a lot of time with, I mean, I got a lot of pedals, but I really don't, I don't like to bend over and plug them all in, try to figure them out all the time. And then I just forget how they work or lose the charger or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a real tech guy, but I would love to see what would happen if I gave them a song and maybe had them produce a song and then I just sang vocals on it at the end or something. Like that would be fun. Or where I was like not even in the process, like I would love to make a record that sounds like Lulu, or sounds like
The Lou Reed Metallica thing, you mean?
no, like Lulu,
Oh, Lulu, the singer Lulu.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
those English orchestrations where there's like a lot of strings and all those like really cool like downtown I would love to have like like the Tijuana brass in there. I would love to make one record that had string sections and horns, like it was just over the top, made it like Capitol Records. It would be really fun. Like
Wow.
yeah.
So the Kevn Kinney Burt Bacharach duets album is
But like really unapologetically just pop. Really, I would love to do that. Have
wow.
I don't know where you find you have to find an arranger. And I'm not sure. Maybe Butch Walker could do it. I don't know. He might.
Oh, I'm sure Butch could certainly get you there. He's got, if he couldn't do it, he knows the people who can.
His new record is really great. Like he's become.
Oh, yeah.
He did this record called Glenn. That's really a great record. It's like sounds like it was made in 1974. It's really an excellent record.
Yeah. It seems to me too. There's, you're kind of a guy who, I mean, when I hear, everybody from the Truckers to Jason Isbell to a lot of bands, I mean, they seem to be following a trail that you kind of blazed back in the early 80s. Do you think of yourself as kind of a trailblazer in that sense?
Not really, because I'm just I'm following the other trailblazers. I mean, I was following Rank and File and and the Husker and I mean, I think I continued to keep the trail walkable. I didn't blaze the trail, but I definitely feel like I kept it
Maintained the path.
I kept the path open so it didn't get overgrown. I definitely feel like I did that. I don't feel like I don't think I've had an original musical idea ever. But I've co-opted, I'm like the Bilbo Baggins of rock and roll. I'm a good thief. I can co-opt a thing, and then what is different about it? It's like your voice is different. The timbre of my voice and the sincerity of leaning on the words. I like to lean on words, and the music to me is, it can be interesting. I mean, but I'm not really doing anything that I haven't stolen from somebody else, and going back to, I mean, maybe the people I'm stealing from, maybe a lot of people don't know, but that might be my only secret, but
Yeah.
but like I said, Love and Bo Brummels and of course, reinterpreting songs like the Byrds, reinterpreting how they reinterpreted Dylan. I do that to myself. Like I'll take songs that I've written, like Scarlet But Smarter. I redid a version of that, and I redid the Innocent on this one, and just trying to reinvent the different things. But I'm really just an Irish folk singer that is like, grew up in the Midwest. I'm, and
Just a
I'm
song and dance man like Dylan.
telling my story, song and dance man. Yeah.
Exactly.
But, I'm not comfortable making people uncomfortable. So, I like to make people, I'm an entertainer,
Right.
when I'm playing live. I'm here to entertain, I
Right.
don't, if I charge like $2 and I have a noise band, which I might have later in life, I might just come up with some synth and get all these pedals out and then just kind of sit there and with some other people just make some noise. I'll be very, very comfortable making people uncomfortable, but right now it's not what I'm selling. It's not really, that doesn't really make me,
Yeah. So I mean, are Drivin N Cryin kind of on hiatus? Do you think you're going to go back to them at some point, or
they're never on hiatus. We play every weekend, so
Yeah.
we're never on hiatus.
Okay.
we're always working. It's always a symbiotic relationship. It's just how it's labeled. And Drivin N Cryin is my fun fishing trip. It's like what I love to do because it's fun to do. The people are great, the arrangements are great. Letting my guitar player go play and singing with Tim and just getting in the van with the guys. And it's not, but I need a space where I could sit there by myself and just sing to myself. Like, I have a song I didn't put on this record. I forgot to put it on, but like my folk songs, my folk shows like, oh, this way too. Well, usually my shows always start with this song. I go, I've just come here to sing to myself what I took off my shelf from under my bed till I cleared my head and I was ready to listen. And I'll sing you some songs from my past that remind you of times wrapped up in rhymes of when you needed me most, like keys in a road. And I've got some stern words for me to keep me complete and away from the dogs, kept me up all night long and borrowed my soul to fill empty rooms. I've just come here to sing to myself from what I took off my shelf and under my bed till I cleared my head and I was ready to listen. This song's for me, and if you want, you can listen. This song's for me, and if you want, you can listen. And if you want, you can listen. So like that's my thing, is like I like to just sing them, like have an hour and a half to sit there and sing to myself and not have to do the Fly Me Courageous Honeysuckle thing. I have to have that in conjunction with the other thing to make me feel complete. It doesn't work without the Drivin N Cryin, doesn't work without me solo, and I don't work without Drivin N Cryin. So they both have to exist at the same time.
I get it. So your next album will be your 20th album in probably about 40 years, give or take. Are you thinking about, or would you even like to kind of do something to mark those occasions, or are you more interested in doing business as usual?
I don't, it's always kind of, I'm more of a business as usual person, because I think that when you do special things, like the Motown 20th anniversary, it's like, I don't know, it's like that was 25 years ago or 50 years. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how special it is. And and the Stones have just fucked everything up as far as like, I've been around 50 years. Like, yeah, well, look at those. They've been around 60 years or what, it's like, I don't even know anymore. I mean, I remember I saw Little Richard as one of my first shows. I went and saw 1974, October 74. I saw Little Richard open for Johnny Winter, and it was Johnny Winter and Rick Derringer at the Milwaukee Auditorium, and Little Richard opened. Now this is 1974, and Little Richard was an oldies act.
Yeah.
Now 74, 64. He'd only really been famous since 57, 56. So it was really only like 16 years before he was open for, 16 years before he was open for Johnny Winter. He was like, he was in 1957. It was like, it was so different. He was considered an oldies act. Now it's like 16 years go by between Tool records and whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, doesn't even seem like, oh, there's an oldies act. It's like, yeah, they're just Tool. How long they've been around? 40 years or so, I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really like your perspective on things. So I think I probably was thinking to myself, when my 20th record is really going to be special, but now I'm just kind of thinking like, who gives a shit? No one's going to buy it
Lots of
because
people
it's the
give a
20th.
shit, sir.
No one's going to care it's because it's the 20th record. Either they get it or they don't.
Okay.
Maybe, but then again, maybe I'll change my. I don't know. Maybe I'll change my mind.
Well,
But
don't make us wait 10 more years for another solo album. How about that?
yeah. Well, I do have things on my plate. I have another record that I'm working on, that I want to make in Nashville with all of my Nashville friends, like Audley Freed and Robert Kearns and the guys who are there in Show Crow's band now, and Sadler and Jason. And I really want to go up to Nashville, and I got another record pretty close to being done for another solo record soon, like probably within the next two years or so, where I want to just really go up to Nashville and take advantage of some of those people while they're all still there. And it's kind of it's a really cool scene up there. It hasn't been ruined yet, Yeah. It's still vibrant and exciting, and so I'll probably do that. And then I want to make, and now I don't know if this will be before that or after that, but I do want to make a Drivin N Cryin. Like, I want to do something that's like an anthem record, like just like rock, just go for it. Like, just like Free, AC/DC, like all the big anthems. I just want to make an anthem record. It's going to be called like Rock Anthems, or
All right.
the K-Tel Records presents Rock Anthems by Drivin N Cryin or something. If I could get the rights to K-Tel Records, maybe I could get them to, like, we can't give you any money for that. Like, that's okay. Can I just use your imprint?
Your logo, yeah. Are
the
you all
logo.
originals, though, or are you gonna toss maybe a few good covers in there too?
Well, I'm thinking all originals, but you never know. I don't know. Whatever I could turn it to a rock anthem, that's why I'm making, because I'd like to have Drivin N Cryin is can be a little bit more fun for me. I don't mind being a little cock rock or whatever. I don't mind shredding and having people. It's all Kiss and
Best of both worlds. A little of this, a little of that.
I love Kiss and all that stuff. I have no problem with Kiss.
Uh-huh.
I love Cheap Trick. I love going to see Cheap Trick, and they just got tons of anthems. They got so many songs that are just like you forget how many great songs they just like one after another. You're like, wow.
Well, you better get writing.
Yeah, I don't think I've written one yet. I don't think I'm working on the first anthem.
You're gonna have to bend down and plug in those pedals.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to either that or maybe just not play on it at all. Just have like Warner Hodge, like go to LA and have this like girls kind of like huge. I don't know I just want to embrace the cheesiness of the rock anthem. I want to celebrate the rock anthem. It's gonna have to be Every Rose Has Its Thorn piano song on there. That's gonna be epic.
I think this sounds to me like a 40th album, 40th year, 20th album kind of thing,
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's something Drivin N Cryin fans would love that. Like, we are all together, we are all something they can sing along with. And I've also had a lot of oohs and ahs, like whoa. I don't have any of those songs either, like ooh, or whatever, like or what's that White Stripes thing that everybody in the world sings now? Like at all the football games, they think, oh, or so. It's just, you know what I mean? It's from that White Stripes.
I don't know the song, but yeah, you need one of those. You need a football.
I need anthems, a whole record of anthems to pick from.
Get on that, sir.
Right, and maybe I'll pick different eras. Like maybe I'll have this one will be called 70s anthem, and this is 80s.
Yeah, you can do a bunch of EPs like you did before.
There you go. Or maybe I'll just do an EP of anthems. I'll see. But I'm gonna have to get Sadler Vaden involved, and I'll have to get some of these. Who else can I call? Who else has got?
Well, that's the thing. Put out the calls, and these people will start, and then it'll gain some momentum. You know what I mean?
I think Ed from Collective Soul can help me write a rock anthem. I bet he's got some rock anthems. And Butch Walker Definitely. Maybe I should have
Yeah,
Butch
Butch
produce it.
Walker just did
Butch could do an anthem record
in his sleep,
in his sleep.
you know.
I'm gonna have to give him a call.
All right. Well, listen, I'll let you
Hey,
get
Siri,
on.
call Butch.
I've taken enough of your time today, but I want to thank you so much for talking to me, and thanks for the music and everything, man.
Well, thank you for talking to me and hanging out. I love your posters.
Oh, thanks. I need a Drivin N Cryin poster. I'll have to get one somewhere.
What city are you in?
I'm up in Winnipeg, the home of K-Tel Records, by the way.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm very serious. Yeah,
Oh my God.
I'm up. Yeah, way up here in Canada. I don't know if you guys have ever been here.
We don't.
Still working.
Oh, so she's still trying to call Butch Walker. No, stop it. No, we don't. We never really got success in Canada. It was really hard. And I mean, we opened for Neil Young in the West Coast once. We opened for the Who on the East Coast once. And we just never, I think we played Toronto. I think the coolest thing about playing Toronto was the kids in the hall were rehearsing in the bar before sound check.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why. They were like, you guys gotta wait. There's a comedy troupe they're rehearsing back here. It's like, okay, cool. And it's us at Soul Asylum. And we tried to play Hamilton, and like 8 people came.
Well, maybe you make that anthem album. It'll happen. It'll be the Drivin N
Canadian,
Arena.
you know what? And if I make it half in Canada,
There you go.
maybe Geddy Lee will help me write. He could help me write an anthem.
Get on that. Yeah, call. Put the call out. Put the
You know
vibes out.
Geddy Lee? Have you met Geddy Lee?
I have indeed met Geddy Lee.
Is he cool?
He's very cool.
Oh,
I met him and Neil.
have you met Alex?
I have
Alex,
not met Alex. No.
he's like the secret Rush member. Like he could probably have a taco, right?
He's the funny one, you know.
Yeah, I love it. He's one of my favorites. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like him.
All
If you
right, man.
meet Alex,
Listen.
tell him Kevin Kinney says hello.
Okay, I'll do that. Listen, man.
Well-
Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you somewhere down the line.
Okay, sir. Be good.
Bye.
Okay.